Okay, class, how's it going? Happy Wednesday. I want to make this video on just a profile, talking about the profile, talking about the essay for a bit. I'll try to make this brief, more brief than um, the past videos. So I'll try to get this in like 15 minutes or so. I know you guys are busy. So, uh, and well, before we get to that, um, essays. Your essays that you turned in, I will have those graded. Um, Probably will start by the end of this week, maybe the weekend. By the weekend, so they should be ready. Your essays should be fully graded by next Monday or Tuesday. Okay. Um, so I'm looking forward to reading those. Now we're done with literature, right? We're onto profiles. I really hope you all have checked out this profile PowerPoint, but let's go over it before we go over the instructions for the essay. Okay. So the profile PowerPoint, this is going to be your next essay. You're going to write a profile on a place here in El Paso. Okay. It's quite a change, right? A change of pace from your last essay, which we were analyzing literature for a couple weeks. This time around, you're going to be writing a profile. Now, a profile, a lot of us may think when we think of the word profile, it's a profile on a person. Yeah, you can do a profile on a person, and most profiles are written about people, right? Maybe famous people. Or you can do a profile on a thing. You could do a profile um, on a phone, for instance. Excuse me. But we're doing a profile on a place. So you're going to pick a place, right? And these key features, like with every other essay we write, there are key features, right? So for the place that you pick, this is the first key feature. It should be an interesting subject, an interesting location. Next, you should have any necessary background. Then an interesting angle and a first-hand account and engaging details. So let's go into these key features and discuss what these all mean, okay? So an interesting subject it can be somewhere unusual. It can be somewhere that you are familiar with, but it has to be a place in the El Paso area. It can't be somewhere in Las Cruces. It can't be somewhere in Juarez. Make sure it is here in El Paso. You can't profile Disneyland or a place down in South America. No. It has to be a place here in El Paso, okay? Because this meets the requirement for an essay that you need to write for EPCC, and it's a requirement by EPCC to write an essay that involves El Paso somehow. So that's why I usually pick the profile, because it's easy to involve El Paso with a profile. It's just a place here, right, in El Paso. So you could write about the plaza. There's a picture of the plaza if you all know or are familiar with the plaza, or if you're not. It's a very historic theater downtown El Paso, and that could be an interesting place, right? But it has to be again here in El Paso. And it's really about looking at a place, seeing a place. Maybe you drive by this place so many times, but you've never gone inside. So you go and you're like, I want to write about this place, and you find out all these interesting things about it. That could be something to think about. Maybe a place you've seen, a landmark you've seen here in El Paso. You're like, I've never been there. Let me go check it out. You can write about it, but just writing about this place doesn't necessarily make it a good profile. And we'll talk about that in a bit, but you need to focus on something. It can't be you discussing a certain place, everything about that place, and we'll talk about what that is in a bit. But first, pick a location that's here in El Paso, an interesting location to you. Then after you pick your location, give me background. So let me know, the history of this place. The background should be at the beginning of the essay. So you should have your introduction, thesis statement, in the introduction. Then your first paragraph should be maybe a little bit of history, a little bit of background about this place, right? Here we have the Star on the Mountain. The Star on the Mountain is probably the most well-known landmark here in El Paso, right? People who who visit El Paso for the first time, they see that star and they're like, wow, they're amazed. So if you were to talk about the star on the mountain, any necessary background would be like, when did it first start? When did they first start lighting it up? When was it? When did they put these light bulbs up there on the mountain, right? Background. And necessary meaning, don't give me a 2-page history essay on this location. It should be necessary just to pretend that you're writing this essay for somebody who's never visited El Paso or doesn't even know the location, right? Now, most of the essays I read, most of these locations that people pick are places I've been to, I'm familiar with. But some of them I'm not. So, just give me enough background so that I can picture it in my head and know what you're talking about, get a little bit of history, some information about what this place is, why it was established, when it was established, etc., right? So necessary background, keyword necessary. Now, this is the most important part of the essay. You need to have an angle. And an angle, what is an angle, you may ask? An angle is something specific about the place that makes it unusual. And so that unusual thing about the place that you visit, that's what you're going to focus on. So a good profile captures its subject from a particular angle. Sometimes finding an angle will be fairly easy because of your topic. Other topics, though, may require you to find a particular aspect for you to focus on. A profile does not tell us something about a place. It shows us something interesting about the subject. So the San Jacinto Plaza, this is a location, you guys are familiar with this, right? It used to have actual live alligators, hence this statue in the middle. So whatever place you pick, you have to focus on something specific about that place. One specific thing. So if you were to go to San Jacinto Plaza here, and you were to talk about, on Christmas they have lights and they have all these cool little displays. And in the summertime, they have like mariachi bands are there and they have a bunch of food. And in the fall, they have, that's too much. You're focusing on too many things. You need to focus on one thing about the place. Because if you go to a place and you just talk about everything that's there, that's not good. You're just describing the place and you're just telling me everything that it has to offer. That's not an angle. You have to pick one specific thing about the location, okay? So hence an interesting angle. What angle are you looking at? What focus are you, what's your focus for this essay? It needs to have a focus. You can't just say everything about San Jacinto Plaza. You can't say everything about the Isleta Mission, right? If you're talking about Isleta Mission. Or you can't say everything about the Scenic Drive, right? You have to focus on one specific thing. So that's what's hard. A lot of people think this essay is easy. It's not, because people turn in their essay and they describe the place and then they don't have an angle. They're just telling me everything about the place and they don't get a good grade. So you need to establish an angle, okay? Remember that. Go back to this slide while you're writing your essay and be like, do I have an angle? Am I focusing on something specific or am I saying everything about the place? No. You need to focus on one specific thing, okay? This is going to be the hard part of the essay, but it's the most important part, okay? Now, a first-hand account means you need to go visit the location. You need to go drive out there, take the bus, get a ride, whatever way you can, get to the place, get to the location you're going to write about, and take diligent notes. Take diligent notes, go to the place, take pictures. I want you to include pictures in this essay, okay? So take pictures, take notes, include vivid details. You're going to include all that stuff in the essay. We'll talk about details in a bit, but in your notes, when you could write notes on your phone, you could take a piece of paper, document what you see at the place, and that's what that means, a first-hand account. You need to go visit this place. Now, this location here is Lincoln Park, which is by the Spaghetti Bowl, right? And they have a bunch of cool murals. They used to have more. I think they got rid of some of the murals, but they have a lot of really cool murals underneath the freeway there. It's really cool. So whatever place you choose, go visit this place and write what you see, right? Take good notes, diligent notes. Now, engaging details. Here's the Franklin Mounds State Park. Franklin Mounds, if you write about the Franklin Mounds, there's a lot to write about. And not like the whole mountain range. There's a bunch of locations within Franklin Mounds State Park. There's like McCalligan Canyon, the Thunderbird on the Franklin Mountain. If you guys don't know about the Thunderbird, Google the Thunderbird on the mountain. It's a really interesting landmark here as well. So you need to include details, vivid details. You need to include details that bring your subject to life. Right. Pretend, again, like I mentioned, pretend you're writing this for somebody who's never been to El Paso and you want to try to get them to come, right? Give me as many details as possible. Specific information, sensory images, figurative language, dialogue, or anecdotes, okay? So dialogue. If you go to a location, like let's say you go to the McGoffin home. The McGoffin home is a great location, guys. They give you tours too. So I think it's you pay $5 and they give you a tour of the house, which is one of the oldest houses in El Paso. They give you all the information there in that tour. You could just be taking notes while the person is, offering you this visual tour and walking you through the grounds. So dialogue, you can include some of the dialogue that the person there who works there, in your paper. Let's say you have a conversation with somebody at the place that you're going to visit, and they work there and they're knowledgeable they're very knowledgeable in that with information on the location. You can talk to them and you can include some of that dialogue in your essay. You could say, according to Jenny, who works at McCalligan Canyon or in the area, she says that, and then you can include some of that dialogue, right? Or at the McGoffin home, my tour guide was Frank, and he talked about the importance of the house, blah, 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 blah. You can include that dialogue. That's why there's dialogue here, right? If you're like, well, how do I include dialogue? Include dialogue with somebody who works at the place or knows about the place. Maybe you find a historian, right? Anecdotes. Choose details that show rather than tell, that let your audience see and hear your subject rather than merely read an abstract description of it. Yes, I keep telling you guys, show me, don't tell me, right? Show me with details, with sensory language, vivid images, all that. Because if you're just describing the place, saying it was pretty, I went to Franklin Mounds, it was really pretty, it was interesting. What does that mean, right? These words, pretty, it was beautiful, it was calming, those are empty words. You need to tell me how, right? This place is beautiful and serene because the green and the brown mix into a mosaic of amazing colors that stretch beyond the horizon. You can, and that's not a great example, but I'm just coming off with this stuff off the top of my head. Give me specific examples. Don't just tell me it was beautiful. What does that mean, right? How is it beautiful? Let me picture it in my brain. So, how do you feel, right? What do you see at the location? Details, but also, how does a place make you feel, right? How does it make you feel inside? Is it calming, and how is it calming? Or is it, if you go to a location that's haunted, right? A lot of people love to do that because I always give this essay or assign it during October, in the fall. And a lot of students want to pick a haunted place. And you can, that's interesting. You can pick a haunted place. But if you're like if you go, let's say, to Monte Leones restaurant, which is one of the most haunted places in El Paso, what did you feel inside? Did you feel chills? Yeah. Did you feel nervous, right? Tell me these things. But then again, if you say things like that, I felt nervous. Well, how? What was making you feel nervous? Were you shaking? Were you scared, right? So it's not only what you see, what you experience, all your five senses, it's what you experience inside, right? Details. Now, choosing a suitable subject, whichever location you choose to profile, make sure it's something that arouses your curiosity, okay? This is the Abraham Chavez Theater. The structure is downtown. You guys have seen it. It's supposed to resemble like a large sombrero, which doesn't really look like, it looks maybe like the top of the sombrero, but it's almost like a brutalist style of architecture, I think, from like the 60s. Kind of an imposing sort of structure, but there's a lot of events that happen here, right? You could pick this. Again, it's up to you where you want to go, but consider this. Consider picking a place you are not too familiar with. Knowing your subject too well can blind you to interesting details. That's true. If you pick a place like, yeah, I go to Scenic Drive all the time, I'm just gonna pick that place so I won't have to go visit it and just talk about it. You're gonna miss a lot of details, okay? And secondly, about Scenic Drive, I always get a bunch of Scenic Drive essays, and they're usually not good because people can't focus on an angle. They just talk about the view. And I'm like, okay, well, what about the view? It's pretty. What else is interesting? There are a lot of other interesting things to say about Scenic Drive that aren't just about that it overlooks El Paso, okay? So if you're thinking about doing Scenic Drive, that's a hard one to do. I'm just warning you right now, and most people who write about Scenic Drive do not get good grades on their essays because they fail to have a good angle that's not obvious. So you pick a place try to pick a place you're not too familiar with. And that way you go in with fresh eyes and, this like adventurous attitude. And you'll pick up on a lot of details that you would otherwise overlook if you pick a place that you're very familiar with, right? So I would say list 5 to 10 interesting places that you can experience firsthand. So make a list. You don't have to put 10 places, but if you want to make a list of 3 places, say, okay, I want to visit these three places. I want to visit this place, and visit them, and then see which one works best for your essay, or which one was most engaging for you, and which one piqued your curiosity, right? You can also do some research online, and you're gonna have to do some research online, but beforehand, before you go to the place, go online, go to Google. There's a link to a website that I posted in the module that will give you some examples of places and landmarks here in El Paso, in case you're unsure of what to write about. Okay, so consider the rhetorical situation. We know this: purpose, audience, stance, right? Media. Include images. Yes, please include pictures of the place. So stance is important too, because you don't have to write a glowing profile on this place. You don't have to write positive things. You can pick a location that you think is terrible and say, go and say that'll be your angle. Like, this place is terrible because, right? And you could say, so it doesn't have to be a positive thing. It could be a negative thing. Some people have written about Chihuahua Stadium downtown, and how it's such a waste of money, and they should have never, opened it up to the public. And they've been pretty good essays. So it doesn't have to be a positive essay. It could be definitely a critical essay. It could be sarcastic, for sure. Sympathetic, all those. It's up to you. What way do you want to present your subject, okay? Now, generating ideas in text. Visit your subject. Do additional research. For this essay, you're going to need to include one outside source. So I'm expecting you to do research, not only by going to the location and hopefully talking to somebody who works there or is familiar with the place, but also doing some research on your own through Google or through the databases here at EPCC, right? Analyze your findings, come up with an angle, know details to support your angle. So remember, the most important part of the essay is an angle. What's your focus? Okay. Ways of organizing in a profile. You can profile it as a narrative, as a description, but it should be more than just describing a place. You should have an angle. Remember, that's the trap that a lot of students fall in. They just write about a place and just describe it, but there's no angle. Okay. You do need to have descriptions there, but you need to focus on something specific about the place. That's going to be your angle. Okay. And there's additional help. So again, guys, if y'all have any questions, you could email me. You can schedule a meeting for my office hours. It's up to you, but it's important to know what a good profile, what are what the key features are, and knowing that it's not just about describing a place, right? It's more than that. So the instructions are already, there it is. The instructions are already posted. This essay isn't due until November 12th. So you have 2 weeks from Sunday. I believe it's gonna go by quick, guys. These 3 weeks always, between modules, always go by really quick. And this is going to be due, I think, what, 2 weeks or a little bit less than 2 weeks before Thanksgiving. So after you turn in this essay, it's going to be, pretty much the end of the semester. So the instructions for this third essay, you'll be asked to write a profile. The essay should be formatted according to MLA style, like your past essays, MLA, 2 to 3 pages, same length as, the other 2 essays, double spaced. Okay, a profile essay is a written portrait that can focus on people, places, etc., etc., etc. The purpose of the profile is to present a subject, in this case a place, in an entertaining way that conveys its significance, yada, yada, yada. Stuff we've talked about, okay? The place you choose can be any place as long as it holds some significance to the border area. So make sure that the location you pick is significant, culturally significant to El Paso, right? And to the people here in El Paso. It doesn't have to be, I've told this to my in class, in face-to-face classes, that it doesn't have to be a place that's 500 years old or, super old. It could be a new place. It could be a new place, but as long as it's important to the city and that, and that you establish an angle, that you have an angle and that you're focusing on that angle. But that is here also in El Paso, okay? So some topic ideas are listed below. You could check out the Chamizal. You could check out El Paso Museum of Art. You could check out the Southwest University Park, El Paso Museum of History. I will say this about museums. Museums are kind of hard to do too because people want to focus on everything inside a museum. If you're going to talk about a museum, only talk about one of the things in maybe an exhibit or something. Or about the museum itself, not the exhibits inside. Because if you focus on all the exhibits inside, that's the same as going to a place, going to San Jacinto and talking about, just give me a description of the place and not saying anything about it. So if you're going to do a museum, make sure you focus on one aspect of the museum and then, take it from there, okay? The Plaza Theater, Franklin Mountains, Scenic Drive. Again, this one's hard to do. Not easy. So if you're just want to write about Scenic Drive like most people want to do, it's not going to be an easy A. I'm letting you know that right now, okay? So the McGoffin home, the McGoffin house is a great one. Isleta Mission, San Jacinto Plaza. Those are all good locations. Now, keep in mind, please keep laws and safety in mind at all times. Don't go breaking into anybody's private property. I don't want to see you guys on like KFox, like being arrested for, trying to break into a supposedly haunted place or something. Now, be safe. Make sure it's open. Visit the place, right? If you can't go to the location, let me know, and we could see if we can. We'll see if we can figure out something. But I'm expecting you all to visit the place. Okay. A minimum of 1 outside source is required for this essay. The source should be cited in the text and in the works cited page using MLA style. 1 source, just one, no more than 2 sources, but you need to include the source, and the source should back up your angle. Okay, so whatever angle it is you're taking for this essay, your source should back it up, okay, and support that angle. So that's pretty much it, guys. I hope the instructions were clear and you've gotten a better sense of what to include in a profile essay. Please, if you have any questions, let me know. Like I mentioned at the beginning of the video, I will get your essays graded no later than next Monday, I should say. Okay, so that's it, guys. I will talk to you soon. Get those writing exercises in too as well. The discussion, which is based off of a reading in the book, get that in, and the writing exercise, which is due on Sunday, get those in as well. Okay. I will see you all soon, and I'm looking forward to reading your essays.